Houses. I welcome you to our post-cabinet press briefing. I welcome you to our post-cabinet press briefing for this week. Cabinet met yesterday, Tuesday the 30th of October, and coming out of that meeting, the head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon, will bring you highlights on a number of matters Cabinet wished to bring to the public's attention, of course, through you, the media, after which we will entertain questions on first his opening statement and, if time permits, on any other topical matter. I'll hand you over to Dr. Roger Luncheon.
Thank you, Kwame, and good morning again, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Cabinet met on the 30th of October, yesterday. Arising from that meeting, these are the matters I intend to bring to your attention. Contracts, as usual, Parliament, Commission of Inquiry update, snippets. Allow me to start as usual with the contracts for which Cabinet granted its no objections to the award. In the education sector, purchase of reading books under the Education for All Fast Track Initiative, an award of 30.6 million Guyana dollars. 30.6 million Guyana dollars. Still in the education sector, the supply and delivery of learning material for the technical institutes in both Region 3 and 5. And that award, 60.42 million Guyana dollars. 60.42 million Guyana dollars. Still in education, the supply and delivery of primary and secondary textbooks, 29.12 million Guyana dollars. 29.12 million Guyana dollars. And the last, in education, the procurement of textbooks for the Ministry of Education, an award, 383.24 thousand US dollars, 383.24 thousand US dollars. Legal affairs. The procurement of hardware for the establishment of management information systems at the Ministry of Legal Affairs and at the Chamber of the Director of Public Prosecutions, an award of 30.65 million Guyana dollars. 30.65 million Guyana dollars. In public works, roads, the rehabilitation construction of 2012 community miscellaneous roads. And here, Esau and Jacob, Tomorrow Point. This is Maikoni in Region 5, 90.16 million US dollars, Guyana dollars. 90.16 million Guyana dollars. Agriculture, drainage and irrigation. The supply of pump discharge pipes to the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, 24.58 million Guyana dollars. 24.58 million Guyana dollars. Security, GDF, procurement, installation of internal communication systems for the national flagship, the GDF Essequibo, 25.86 Guyana dollars, million Guyana dollars, 25.86 million Guyana dollars. And lastly, in health, procurement of medical equipment, $33.09 million Guyana dollars. 33.09 million Guyana dollars. Parliament. The role of Parliament in national life was again highlighted as Cabinet continued its focus on its 2012 program of legislation. Cabinet agreed to introduce legislation to, 1, amend the Sexual Offences Act, to introduce processing fees for licensing firearm applications and for firearm trading licensing. Trading, G-R-A-D-I-N-G, firearm trading licensing, to repeal and reenact the Deeds and the Commercial Registry Authority Act, to enact amendments to the Business Registration Act. These intended pieces of legislation, once introduced, would join those already on the order paper and attracting the attention currently of the House. And those would be notably the Telecommunications Amendment Bill and the Public Utilities Commission Amendment Bill, tabled and having had its first reading by the government and up for the second reading. At the same time, an AFC opposition motion for the first reading of a private member bill having the same name and designation awaits the Speaker and the House's discretion. Opposition machinations, the Speaker's counter machinations, and the administration's resolute parliamentary work have made the sittings of the National Assembly an exercise of great uncertainty and also one of unbelievable spectacle. Commission of Inquiry. Cabinet noted the recent developments at the level of the Commission. The more notable, the decision for Minister Rohi to appear before the Commission and the commencement of organized activities surrounding compensation. With regards to Minister Rohi's appearance, the debate, particularly about whether he should appear or not, has for all intents and purposes been concluded, and the minister would be appearing on Wednesday October the 31st, 2012, at 10 o'clock. With regards to the second, organizing the activities surrounding compensation in the absence of a credible case being made so far about blame, about cause, about responsibility for many of those events, including deaths and injuries and loss of property, damage of property, for which compensation will likely be claimed. The lack of a credible case does indeed generate in many minds where such an activity could possibly lead, where would it possibly end. Cabinet further reiterated that the overall pre-inquiry condemnation of the Guyana Police Force, the Minister of Home Affairs, and the PPP Civic Administration has been comprehensively and totally rebutted by the evidence that has been introduced so far during the hearings. Cabinet contends that in any civilized setting, many of those whose pre-inquiry utterances, actions, and behavior have been exposed or caused them to be seen as demagogues would be made to pay for their excesses and their abuses, and many others would be so discredited and embarrassed that their careers would be in tatters. The writing is on the wall. Cabinet snippets. Cabinet provided its agreement to the government of Suriname for the appointment of Mrs. Mehorn Niza Koban Bebu as the resident ambassador extraordinaire and plenipotentiary as of the Republic of Suriname to the Republic of Guyana. The ambassador designate succeeds Ambassador Honorma Suknanan, who had been accredited in 2001. Cabinet also approved the establishment of diplomatic relations with the Republic of Kazakhstan, the Central Asian and European state. Appointments. The Auditor General acting, Mr. Deodat Sharma, was today, October the 31st, 2012, confirmed in the post and appointed as the substantive Auditor General of Guyana by President Donald Ramotar. Finally, broadcasting. The Trinidad and Tobago delegation from their regulatory authority, TATT, made a significant contribution to the Guyanese sector during their brief but intense engagement in Guyana over the past few days. 3 engagements predominated, with Cabinet, a public forum with sector practitioners and others, and one with their fellow regulators from Guyana, the members of the governing board of the Guyana National Broadcast Authority. The delegation from Trinidad disclosed that their regulatory reliance on a non-statutory code of conduct to regulate broadcast content was different from the Guyanese example of provisions in their act dealing with the broadcast content and standards to ensure compliance with the broadcast contents. The delegation, during its engagement, also dealt with matters concerning fee schedule, the economic impact of liberalization of the sector, the practices surrounding litigation under the Act in Trinidad, handling competition and development of the broadcast and the telecommunication industry in Trinidad. Our National Frequency Management Unit sponsored the visit and expressed its gratitude to our visitors from Trinidad and Tobago. Those are the matters I wanted to bring to your attention, ladies and gentlemen of the media. As usual, questions, my opening statements, and if you have time for the Cabinet Secretary before you leave on your appointed tasks, I would be more than honored to respond.
Okay, who's next? Dennis.
Dr. Luncheon, Dennis Shimon, Governor Airways. Sir, in your opening statement, you pointed to what you described as great uncertainty in the workings of the National Assembly. My question to you, sir, is to what extent is government willing to continue to entertain such great uncertainty? Is it that your administration believes that you're getting closer to the point where you would want to go back to the polls to end this great uncertainty?
There are two main constitutional tasks that are imposed on the Parliament and the National Assembly, and that, of course, is legislation and oversight. And these are the two areas, legislation and oversight, and the way in which the configuration in Parliament, the one-seat majority enjoyed by the opposition, its impact on legislation and its handling, and on oversight of the executive and the way it is handled, that generate the anxiety, generate the uncertainty. Whilst there can be no doubt that the one-seat majority has been the occasion for this cultivation of uncertainty and anxiety, I don't believe in the short term that there is a broad acceptance that going to an election resolves that. The issues indeed addresses the format, the rules, the structure, the procedures that are part and parcel of all the traditions of democratic parliamentary democracies. We have a problem. And until such time as we resolve those issues in a conventional way, paying more attention, much more attention to what is conventional, what is the normative practice, the way in which parliaments operate, I'm afraid this anxiety and this uncertainty would persist. And the tripolar nature of the current situation, the governing party and the two opposition parties, and the search for accommodations would have an impact on the way in which the House addresses its fundamental responsibility of passing legislation and dealing with the oversight of the executive.
Follow-up, Dr. Lunch, why do you believe that going back to the polls will not resolve the current situation?
I'm saying going back to the polls in the short term.
Yes, in the short term, why?
Because over the period for the preparation for an elections, this very same parliament with these same instabilities would have now the additional responsibilities of grandfathering a pre-electoral period. Here we have legislation and oversight. Legislation and oversight that I think you would want to agree with me has been the occasion for many times this great uncertainty, obviously much discord at the level of Parliament. And I'm saying to you, adding in a third factor now, bringing on board a pre-electoral parliamentary agenda. And that's why I'm saying in the short term, much more attention needs to be paid to us grasping fundamentals, not fundamentals that we are going to originate, fundamentals that have been there, fundamentals that are being practiced in other parliamentary democracies and being brought to bear successfully in dealing with national issues, legislation, dealing with oversight. That is where the fundamental problem is. That is where there will always be in parliaments a majoritarian presence. Whether it's the opposition, whether it's the governing party, they will always be. But what holds them together in a parliamentary democracy is respect for the rules, respect for the traditions. It's written in our big books. Experts who pronounce and advise on what parliaments should do and how they should do it.
Question, sir.
Yes, Adam.
Textbooks. You had gone to local printers, you had awarded the 10, I think it was. Figures range from about $105 million to $110 million, sir. And here I notice that you're putting out in excess of $200 million Guyana for the textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were these the same textbooks, sir, that we were seeking to print locally? If not, is there going to be a shortfall in the number of textbooks needed based on the notion that by having these textbooks printed locally, we would have been saving some money and making them cheaper.
Mathematically, Adam, your point is unassailable. The unit cost in the face of the High Court ruling that essentially has precluded a resort to the photocopied versions, even with the most generous price cutting, concessions by publishers and others, and I must commend our bilateral partners who have done extraordinarily behind the scenes to provide this developing country, this small economy, with the books at prices that we can best afford. But the long and short of it is, yes, we cannot procure the same volume, and as a consequence, one can anticipate that we will be going to the budget, going to the National Assembly for ramping up social expenditure, social sector expenditure, to maintain the same level of coverage in the educational sector insofar as textbooks and that kind of material is required.
Secondly, sir, there once was a program where books were recycled. Has that program been done away with in the education ministry?
I wouldn't say it has been done away with, but you probably have some experience with the younger generation. They're a different kettle of fish. I don't think this recyclable, I don't think the generations these days are as attuned to recycling as it was sometime previously. It's not a feature that is as practiced years ago. There's still classroom editions and texts, but the accent on performance, the education sector is extremely competitive at the individual level and at a school level, at a regional level. And at the bottom line of competition is individual performances. Everybody wants their book. Everybody wants to get 16 ones.
Yeah. Any other question? Yes.
Dr. I'm looking here.
Your name, introduce.
Sorry, the allocation is $383,000 for the textbooks. My math tells me that it's about 76 million, or it's a little more than that. When the books were being procured as pirated books, it was much more expensive. Now it's original books and it's loaded. I don't understand the amount that government is going there, and if it's going to be, you said it's going to be adequate. I don't know.
Did I say it was going to be adequate? I didn't recognize I said that. I don't recognize.
Because my calculations would tell me that it's grossly inadequate.
Well, the problem with your calculations is that you have attempted to link what is an aggregate procurement using monies made available or would have been made available for the procurement of photocopy text with a specific one procurement. This is just this one procurement. This is a terrible flaw, because what you are looking at with an aggregate procurement of photocopied books was an aggregate procurement, not a single procurement. This morning, I drew to your attention 4 different procurement orders. So when you want to talk about aggregate, which was the context within which the photocopied procurement was being done, it was an aggregate procurement for the entire system. We must be careful that you're comparing like things. So that $383,000 procurement is merely one of the many different procurements for textbooks in the entire system. So you have to be very careful. The second point is, we all recognize, as I said, even with those concessionary prices that we obtain for these original texts, it still exceeds the unit cost, if one could speak about the unit cost, of a photocopied version. And as such, I said, we should expect that a foray to the budget to get additional funding to increase spending in the social sector were we to maintain the same level of coverage. Those are the 2 points I wanted to make.
Okay, are there
Yes.
any other new person with any question? Okay, go ahead, Adam.
Sorry, I wanted to talk with you about the signing that's scheduled for this afternoon, 3:15, Chetty Jagan International Airport. So is that going to be the financial signing for the expansion of the airport contract, sir?
Airport expansion project, the 2 framework agreements. I wasn't privy to the specific, I know it was being done today, but I'm happy that, as I mentioned last week, I said we are on the verge. Those 2 framework agreements would be signed, both with the Exim Bank and with the China Harbor for construction. Those are the 2 sole outstanding framework agreements for the project to be given its full green light to go ahead.
And since nobody wants to jump, you ain't got to go yet. The dog say you got time to sit down. Doc, I also wanted to talk with you about something that was in the news recently, this aircraft business. I know Minister Ben had come to cabinet and he would have discussed the whole question of the aircraft, movement of the aircraft and whatever. What were some of the details that he would have shared with you at cabinet that we would not have known because we couldn't ask him?
I think the essential point was that the aircraft was, if I could speak of it as a human being, was resident in Guyana for quite some time. For quite some time, not days, not weeks, months. It was resident in Guyana. I find it difficult to believe that, like a human being, it might have changed its motives and its minds from what it was intended for months ago to today. There is a strong sentiment that it was here for a specific purpose, and over time it was slowly implemented, leading to what happened over the most recent weekend. And our question for us, and I have advised the minister that we will have to have an inquiry. How is it possible, on the assumption that there was and there still was a specific intent for it being here months now. How was this not disclosed until now? What was discovered at the strip where the vessel, the aircraft was found, was a modification, number one, for extended flying, and number two, an effort to disguise its registration. A modification to permit extended flying hours, which is almost similar to what the Cessna that we found abandoned at Quapaw, the same modification, extra fuel tanks, pumps, to facilitate much longer flying hours than the industrial type tank facility capacity would provide. And then the attempt to disguise, conceal the registration. And our feeling is it started with that. It didn't come here to go to church and then discover that there was something going on the bridge. It came here with the intention, this is our feeling, of belonging, contributing, and completing that mission. And how is it months later?
Any report of it being stolen from any source? Have you been able to trace the original registration and all of that?
Well, I am told it is an Ecuadorian registered vessel. Like everything else, we are anticipating a deluge of correspondence from parties that are in one way or the other involved in this matter. But we have sought the assistance of our bilateral and international partners in pursuing this matter to full disclosure.
Joe, hold on. Sorry, you had the hands of the young lady up before you, Dennis. Yes, go ahead.
Recently, in the news, there has been the case of the two female soldiers of the Army in the Army who were supposedly caught in sexual act. What is government's, we haven't heard anything from government on the case in Europe. Anything speaking out about this instance because you heard the women were dismissed. What is government's position on gays serving in the U.S. military?
We haven't had, this is at the level of the Defense Board, we haven't had a specific solicitation from the GDF where this matter is concerned about gays serving in the military. It is our contention, though, that this consultation that arose after our UPR presentation in Geneva in 2010 and the foray to the Parliamentary Select Committee would, maybe I should say should, provide an opportunity or opportunities for this matter to be gotten into. And even if it didn't, I think this most recent event with the two young ladies, the two female soldiers, ought to ensure the gay community is not without a certain amount of resources, both domestic and international, to put over their viewpoint. And I'm certain that the opportunity that this event provides would more than allow them, the community, to introduce aspects of the military its position on gay soldiers and a national position on homosexuality. So I am happy that in a kind of a convoluted way, the event has indeed contributed to fostering this appetite for us to deal with this issue.
Final
Yes,
question.
Cabral.
No, about the Harris's question. What is now the new, quote unquote, new registration for this aircraft?
There can't be any new registration. We didn't.
Well, the bogus one there.
This year,
Oh,
Remember.
I am just told it was being assigned by the impromptu registration authority at the Maracanazo airstrip with Venezuelan registration information.
And is firing the soldiers wrong or right in your eyes?
You mean at the airstrip?
No, the dismissal of the two female soldiers.
dismissed
Is
them.
wrong or
We,
is it right?
Dr. you spoke
If what is
about
that?
already. The
Is
same
it, was
issue
it
she
wrong to
raised.
fire them? Was it wrong to dismiss the two soldiers?
They were. I am not certain. This matter, as I said, was not referred to the Defense Board. So it would be difficult for me to take a position of which matters I'm uncertain.
All right, thank you very much, thank you.
Yeah,
Precisely, teachers.
and you're affected.
And they wrote, no,
You're back in the service?
No, we're dealing with the matter now, because we couldn't understand why the Teaching Service Commission dismissed them.
Right.
Oh, really?
This is how recent.
This is, they writing, protesting their dismissal came to us this month. But what's his name? The guy who's in charge, the union people in charge of disciplinary. Teaching Service Commission is sending out a signal that they frown on maybe not so much the behavior, but the publicity that this behavior is attracting. They claim, this is what they've said to us, that it's pornography.
Who, the Teaching Service Commission?
Because
Yes.
it's been on the cell phone.
Because they're saying that it's being distributed by the individuals. I mean, if you put a mask in front of your face and behind your face, is one thing, but they're claiming that these teachers are engaging in pornography. So
And they
then really-
have proof of this?
But they got the teacher face ban and people hiding the face.
No, what they call it, cross-dressing pornography?
No, man, these people are engaged in overt sexual activity.
But where, on the streets or in their own
No,
person,
in
in their
their own
private?
private.
So what business is it of the Teaching Service
But you ain't
Commission?
supposed you get locked up for pornography. Pornography don't say that if it happens in the streets, people get locked up.
Oh my, sorry.
Yeah, they've been interviewed about it.
Huh?
Oh, he said we have to walk this way.
This way,